May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stand and have a moment of silence. Thank you. I'll now call the meeting to order.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Before we proceed into the posted agenda, I'm recommending we add an additional item to this evening's agenda due to recent changes to our public health data for our school district. I recommend the board amend the agenda to include update to the Bhmsd Healthy Operations Plan.
We have a recommendation to amend our agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
First by Mr. Holland,
Second.
second by Mr. Murray. Are there any comments or questions from the members of the board? All those in favor? 5-0. Moving on to public comment.
Thank you to all in attendance this evening as our board works to serve our community, to best serve our students here at Bluffton Harrison MSD. Before we begin the public comment portion of the agenda, I would like to share some information with all in attendance in regards to the policy creation process. Our Board of School Trustees developed policy through a two-step process. Tonight's agenda lists policy creation as an agenda topic, in which the board intends to draft a policy to provide direction to students, faculty, staff, and the community in regards to school operations. Upon consideration this evening, if the policy passes as presented, the board will return in September to finalize the policy creation process. In this manner, the general public is afforded ample time to provide input to the school board regarding the content of any policy being created. At this time, we will be holding the opportunity for public comment on an agenda item being considered at tonight's meeting. As you entered the cafetorium this evening, a copy of the agenda was provided as a handout. Included in the agenda packet were also 4 documents. 1, the Bhmsd policy BDDC, outlining public participation at public meetings. A draft resolution to be considered by the board this evening, and 2 draft policies to also be considered by the board this evening. In regards to public comment, having lived in our school community my entire life, I'm confident our community will continue to conduct themselves with respect and civility towards one another and model behavior expected of all of our students in the classroom. Our policy, BDDC, states, the agenda for public meetings shall always be suitable time for public comment. However, the meetings are conducted for the purpose of carrying on the businesses of the school. They are not public meetings, but rather meetings held in public. Individuals wishing to comment on an agenda item may address the board only when called upon by the board president or the superintendent. Upon being called upon, the person shall stand and announce their name for the minutes. This evening we have a microphone down here at the bottom of the area for you to use. The person shall direct his or her comments to the board president or the superintendent. The board president and or superintendent shall take any actions necessary to maintain order at a meeting, including but not limited to interrupting a speaker if the statement is deemed too lengthy, unduly repetitive, openly hostile or abusive, or otherwise disruptive of the meeting. The board president or superintendent may also limit the total time to be devoted to public comments.
Given the number of individuals signed up for public comment, I make a motion to establish the following guidelines for this evening's public comment. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. Dr. Yates will stand up at 2 minutes and 30 seconds and sit down at 3 minutes to give you the signal of your time. Participants may not yield or cede remaining time to other participants. Public participation shall be limited to 30 total minutes unless extended by a vote of a majority of the board members present. Do I have a second to establish the guidelines for this evening's public comment?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holland. Are there any comments or questions from members of the board? All those in favor? 5-0. Motion passes. We will now.
For anyone standing in the back or looking for chairs, we do have some seats available if you're wanting to. So we'll just take a moment here if anyone wants to move to open chairs.
We will now move to tonight's public comment segment by calling names from the sign-in sheet. I will call one to come up and have the next one in line that will be ready. First up is Carter Johnson. Next in line is Dylan Johnson.
Is it okay if I take this off really quick?
We just leave it there so not everyone touches it, if that would be okay.
Okay. So I am Carter Johnson, and our next speaker and I believe that this policy is rather too regulatory. We as students and staff have come to the consensus that through immersive conversation, that closed-minded thinking is harmful to the student body on a larger scale of the United States civilian population. This policy declares that we must be subjects of unjust to others, then we suggest violating those given terms. I find that this policy does not really promote a healthy environment for students to learn, explore, and be themselves. A policy in such a manner turns our education into intellectual sterilization. By doing this, we are hiding our children and kids from the objective reality of this world, for which it contradicts the point of preparing them for the real world. In doing so, their intelligence is locked away, for dogs are obedient to their owners when ignorant. So let me ask you this, are we dogs or are we independent individuals? I will go ahead and answer for you. Us students throughout the entirety of the Bluffton School District are distinct individuals that can, like myself, also speak for themselves. I know for sure that I will not be subject to such dehumanization and will not subject my fellow kin to such horrendous policies. Indoctrination is the first step to dehumanization, and this is our measures to ensure we will not proceed any further with this given policy. Indoctrination of public schools is achieved by communicating certain ideas in schools and requiring that all students adhere. Banning all forms of controversial symbols and expressions in the name of protecting students from such ideas implies an inherent logical contradiction. By implementing such a policy, regulating the expression of controversial ideas, you thereby not only express but enforce one single controversial idea. The idea that all expression perceived as controversial by the state aren't only bad but should also be prohibited. Where this policy is harmful is at the means of expressing and enforcing the principle behind it. These said means consist of complete immersion of the student in such beliefs. Once such a policy is implemented, the school can no longer be referred to as a school, lest it be ironically named. The facility will no longer be a facility for education, but rather a facility for complete and total indoctrination. We witnessed the results of this indoctrination in Soviet Russia in the form of the Holodomor, in which 3.9 million people died, and education was used to indoctrinate the student and to glorify the leader's actions. In Nazi Germany, the Holocaust, in which children were indoctrinated to be subjects of the state, and up to 7.5 million Jews were killed in this horrific event. But one thing that contributed to this greatly was the lack of resistance on part of the populace due to the fact that children were immersed in such an environment that was strictly anti-Semitic. If this policy was put in place, how would it affect the situation of the way that we got here in the first place? Which brings my next speaker to how this indoctrination is done here in the United States.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dylan Johnson. Next up is Ashley Lush. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong.
This brings me to how indoctrination is done here in the United States. As its name suggests, the Prussian system of education, in which state standardized curricula were implemented en masse, originated in Prussia. This system laid the foundations for the modern school system in the Western world and quickly spread across Europe and the Americas. The original stated purpose of the Prussian system was to train students to be good citizens. This is to say, the Prussian system and all offshoots of this system, such as the modern American school system, are inherently and deliberately designed to indoctrinate children into serving their governments and regardless of its actions and instructions. For now, doing away with this system is pretty much impossible, but until the possibility arises, we should do everything in our power to mitigate the effects of this system when we immerse our children in an environment in which it is designed to mold them into formulaic and predictable beings, and where the authorities can arbitrarily ban topics on the basis of them being controversial. Only totalitarianism can follow. In the words of Maximilian Robespierre, the secret of freedom lies in educating people, whereas the secret of tyranny is in keeping them ignorant. Carter and I propose a policy which allows all controversial symbols to be allowed in school in grades 5 and up, provided that and only that civil and rational discussion is open, allowed, and encouraged, and given that it does not unnecessarily impede on the progression of the class. As for the lower grades, they should be taught to use critical thinking and to question everything they hear. Just to clarify, discussion does not necessarily have to only take place in classrooms. I'm sure the higher-ups in the school have enough imagination to facilitate such discussion in such a manner that everybody would be included. Although America is not yet comparable to a full-blown totalitarian society, the emergence of such a regime should be rallied against at all turns. Just as we wore masks to thwart the COVID-19 pandemic, which has killed over 620,000 people in the U.S. alone and could have killed much more, we should immerse our children in an environment in which all ideas are discussed and shown for what they really are, be them good, bad, ugly, or downright incomprehensible, as a means of thwarting the emergence of a totalitarian regime. For only in the wake of ignorance, mindlessness, and passive and unquestioning acceptance of authority, which a policy regulating controversial material and subjects will bring about, can a totalitarian regime rear its ugly head over the horizon. For the rise of each new generation of young minds is a change in the direction which our country takes, for better or for worse. Our only hope is that we change for the better. We owe it to our children and our children's children to create environments in which their minds and imaginations will be nurtured so that they will become open-minded, free-thinking, and independent individuals who will drive America as well as the entirety of the human race to new heights. If this is not the purpose of education, then I ask you, what is?
Woo! Thank you. Ashley? Next up is Bev Balish.
My name is Ashley Lush. I attended Bluffton Elementary, Middle, and High School. I would have graduated in the class of 2002. I'm here today to share my experience of being a part of the LGBTQ community while attending within this district. I would like to sympathize with the parent who called for this movement. I would go to great lengths to advocate for my children. Part of why I'm here today is to represent them. They deserve safety and inclusion for having gay parents. I am here to offer insight as to why removing a symbol of safety and inclusion is not the solution. It was also my experience that homophobic slurs were used as tools to bully, as early as elementary school. That was before I even knew to acknowledge the reality of being gay. Removing a pride flag will send a very clear and loud message to the youth, teachers, community, and world beyond Wells County. It will enable homophobic tendencies. It will empower the same behavior that existed over 20 years ago. It will cause kids within the community to have a gut-sinking feeling every day they walk through these doors. Trust me when I say you have more of those kids than you can identify. I came out my junior year, immediately regretted it. Made it to senior year when the bullying transformed into physical threats and intimidation. I went to the proper authority figures within this school. They did not offer an ounce of safety or support. I actually walked out of the office feeling worse than before I entered. A few days later, when I had an element of proof, which is what they asked for, gum spat in my hair, they still refused to help me. That day I left knowing I had no choice but to drop out of school, to sacrifice graduating with honors and scholarships to feel safe, to ensure I had a future. I was alone. Had there been an ally, a teacher with a flag up, I would have gone to them instead of walking out, away from graduating with my class, away from an easier start to adult and college life, one I earned, because I wasn't safe. I didn't get to graduate with all of the people I grew up with. I had to find a different way to get an education, and I did. At 17, I moved to a bigger city on my own to finish my education. This kid, Brendan, I believe, has someone fighting for him. He's gonna be okay. This flag must remain for the kids who don't know what to do with what they're feeling inside and realizing about themselves. The answer is to enforce a zero-tolerance bullying policy. Beyond that is exposure to diversity. Those of us within the LGBTQ community are very skilled, creative, and passionate. Diversity hires are sought after in the real world, and that's part of your job, to prepare these kids for the world. In this country, LGBTQ people are a protected class because we are people. It's that simple. Different than most, sure, but the rest of the world has entered a time of celebrating diversity. I would encourage having people of diversity accessible to these kids, talk about the hard realities, encourage the notion of being supported. Suicide over these matters is real. I know from personal.
Thank you, Ashley. Bev? Next up is Kevin Miller.
That was very moving. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate the support that the school board and Dr. Yates have shown me thus far. Unfortunately, it has brought us to this place at this time. I don't know why we have to draft a policy at all. We are jumping through hoops, trying to appease a parent who made an illogical argument to begin with. The flag did not cause her son to be bullied, and she has in turn bullied us into this corner. The town of Bluffton has signs as you enter our community saying, quote, "We are building an inclusive community," unquote. An inclusive community wouldn't consider a rainbow flag for pride controversial. It is simply a symbol of love and acceptance for a marginalized group. Woo! The proposed policy says that if I form a club, like a Gay Straight Alliance Club, then I could put a rainbow flag on posters advertising the club, but still couldn't hang the flag on the wall. Forming a club means that the kids who are part of the LGBTQ community would have to publicly state who they are, which opens them up to harassment, further harassment by their peers. Whereas having a flag on the wall in my room just shows them that they're accepted and welcome, and that they don't have to put themselves out there, and that they can come to me in a safe space. That flag also says that kids who are LGBTQ are not allowed to be harassed in my presence. It is not tolerated here. Leaving it up on the wall says it very strongly, but taking it down says that the haters win, and that is not a good message to send to our students. It could possibly fuel more harassment toward them. We do have LGBTQ kids in our middle school. What message are you going to send to them if we are asked to take it down? Once again, they're not valued. That's what it says. It was said to me recently that our community is now divided because of this. I disagree. Our community has always been divided on this subject, as we just heard. At least now it is out in the open. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev. Next up is Chris Coiner.
Hello, my name is Kevin Miller, and I don't have anything prepared tonight, and I really just come to speak from the heart. We do, just at least me and my family, we are a Christian family, and we welcome the gay community. It's horrible to see and to hear of just the trauma that's been dealt in this community. But I also don't believe that the school has the right to teach any specific ideology and that no symbols belong in the school. I don't believe the Christian flag, the Confederate flag, the pride flag belong. I don't think these children are mature enough to be able to understand what the true representation and the meaning of a lot of these symbols and ideology is. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. After Chris, we have Aaron Butcher.
Hi, thank you for your time. I'm the father of a 3-year-old son. We're looking at school options in the future. I wanted to start you guys off with a couple quotes. I want you guys to consider them. First is, our culture has accepted 2 huge lies. The first is that if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you have to fear or hate them. The second lie is that to love someone means accepting everything they say or do. Neither is true. You don't have to compromise your convictions to be compassionate. The second one I want to address is an issue of hatred, because I feel like this factors into it. Dr. Martin Luther King once famously said, "Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." Well, based on the culture we have, love has been watered down. The true definition, part of the true definition of love is when you love someone, you tell them the truth. I understand how people feel that they are being hated on. I get that. However, I want you guys to consider that in the 80s, during this whole thing, when all of it got started, there was a ton of misinformation that went around that led to, I feel, where we are today. Those same people are currently out pushing misinformation about a lot of other things. Now, as a Christian, I understand that God loved everybody. Christ died on the cross for everyone. I also understand he did not accept certain things. He may have sat and ate with them, but he did not like the sin. He loved the sinner. Therefore, I think that they have gotten what is the worst of some of the people that are Christians, and the church has failed. The church should be teaching these issues. I just think you guys need to focus more on curriculum and science and the true history of this country, which this country was founded on the Bible and the gospel of Jesus Christ. So to teach anything else like that would be considered going against the flag and against the oath that a ton of people have already sworn and laid down their lives for. Thank you.
Thank you. After Aaron, we have Vicki Van Meter.
Hi, I'm Erin Butcher. I first want to say that the 2 students that spoke at the beginning were very eloquent, and I don't have anything like that. I'm speaking as a parent. My son goes to the middle school. He's in 5th grade, so he's had less than 3 weeks of middle school, and I'm ready to send him back to where the elementary school says kind is cool every Wednesday. And it's very disappointing that this doesn't seem to carry through to the middle school or to the high school level. We haven't reached that, so I don't know. But it doesn't seem to carry through. I need to know that my child is safe from bullies. I need to know that my child has someone to go to if he's being picked on and he doesn't feel like he can come to me. If he comes to me, I am going to rain the wrath of God down on every single person that is picking on him. Straight up, not joking. If he comes to me and says he's being called derogatory names, has told a teacher and nothing has been done, there will be no one safe from my wrath. Straight up, I'm not joking. I know that sounds terrible, but I'm a mama bear, and I'm not going to stand for it. If my child has nowhere to be safe in his school, it's not fair. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to anyone that feels unsafe, regardless of whether it's sexual orientation or how they look or where they go to school or where they go to church or whatever. Whatever. If they don't feel safe, they need someone to go to. And having a flag up seems like a good way of making it known that their classroom is a safe space.
Absolutely. Thank you. After Vicki, we have Kelly Grady Pierce.
Good afternoon. My name is Vicki Vamater, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Bluffton Harrison Teachers Association as their current co-president. We as teachers would like to state that the materials in our classroom promote a safe and inclusive environment. Therefore, we do support the administration's willingness to draft these policies and include the Bluffton Harrison's Teachers Association in these discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. After Kelly, we have Holly Whitbrook.
First of all, I would just like to thank, I don't know where you went, Ashley, for sharing what you did. That was beautiful and vulnerable, and I'm sorry for your experience. I would hope that if you had a teacher like Miss Balish in high school, that might have changed the path of your education. I don't remember your name, I'm sorry, but the gentleman who spoke a few minutes ago, he and I actually have something that we agree on. We do need more science in Bluffton, especially if we think that displaying a pride flag is indoctrination and leads to increased homosexuality, because that's just factually untrue. What it does do is address the issue that gay and bisexual students are 5 times more likely to take their lives. So those of you who are standing today in support of exclusion, I would just like you to know that even right now, if there's not someone you love close to you who identifies as gay or bisexual, that might change tomorrow. That might change in 5 years. And what you're telling them is that they're controversial as they are, that you don't accept them and love them for who they are. So I know that we boast a zero-tolerance bullying policy at all levels of Bluffton Harrison. I would say as a parent from this school district, that has not been my experience. So anything we can do to include especially marginalized populations and make them feel safe, I 100% support. Thank you, Bev.
Hi. Thank you. After Holly, we have Jane Leonard.
My name's Holly Whitbrook. My husband, Dr. David Whitbrook, and I moved to Bluffton 25 years ago for his job opportunity, and we were thrilled when we put our 2 children in the Bluffton Metropolitan School District. We have nothing but good things to say. I have to brag on the teachers. They shepherded our children. Mrs. Fisher taught my daughter Spanish one-on-one, face-to-face. They received excellent education here, and I know that's available for everyone. My daughter now is a speech therapist, and she works with bilingual children. And my son does futures trading in Chicago. And guess what Mr. Miller did? He taught him German, and he works with German clients. Mrs. Duncan had a wonderful chess club. They went to all over this part of Indiana, and she helped him with this complex thinking. And I could just go on and on and on. Mr. Greaser and my son just clicked. Their love for books. Mrs. Balish got my son to run cross-country. There's something special, almost sacred about that bond between a student and a teacher. Somehow a teacher can reach down into the soul of a child and see their weakness and see their strength. And I've seen this happen. I served as a substitute nurse here at all 3 schools, and that in itself is such a huge, huge positive thing. I mean, that doesn't happen, a nurse in every school building, but it happens in Bluffton. And for those special children that need extra care from the breakdown of our society, those nurses serve those children. They love them. The teachers love them as their own children. They give them coats. The list is endless. And when the first day of school, they're told, you're going to graduate. You're going to graduate from high school. You're going to reach a goal. Maybe nobody else in your family ever graduated. You're graduating. And you know what? They will graduate. They will reach hundreds of goals to reach that graduation. I saw my children's education built on that foundation of the grade school, Mrs. Hirely and her husband, two of the finest people you will ever meet, one of the best educators ever. And thank you, Dr. Yates, and thank you, Bluffton Harrison. I can't thank you enough. You launched my children into the adult world. You taught them the skills they need to be responsible adults. Our teachers strengthen the fabric of this society, and they do it every day, hour by hour, minute by minute. I sat and watched the positive interactions. And I know, I'm sorry, I talk too much.
Thank you.
And
Would you like a kid if they were gay?
yeah, I would. I've always had gay friends.
That concludes your time, Mrs. Whitbrook. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
After Jane, we have Haley Ashman.
Okay, speech class, scariest class I've ever taken. Speaking of teachers, Mrs. Yake taught me to take notes for speeches, so I've got them. So, if you want to know what our current queer relations are here at the school, and like queer isn't really like a slur, it's being retaken. I've got a lot of Facebook comments printed out that were on the announcement of this meeting, so I'm gonna put those there for you. I've also got, regardless of what you guys decide, it's gonna be a fact that LGBT students have the right protected by federal law to express their own sexuality in school. So even if teachers can't do anything, then, I mean, they can come to school dressed as like a pack of Skittles. So. And also some results of what the kind of policies like this actually do, because it's like, it's great to talk about like what we thinking, what our believies are and everything, that's a Louis C.K. thing, sorry. But it's a little different to talk about like what it actually results in, because usually it's homelessness, and it sucks. It's kids on the street because their families don't want them, and they kick them out. So let's see. I have two stories here about a couple friends I have. So the first one I'm going to call David because he actually did go here, and I didn't really get his permission to tell his story. So first one is David. He's really smart. He graduated college. He's multilingual. He also left here as soon as he possibly could. Because he hated it here, because everybody didn't seem to like him, including his mom and his stepdad, which was kind of a result of his stepdad. His stepdad convinced his mom that there was something wrong with him. She didn't seem to think that before, which is weird because we were always told in school that brain drain was a really big problem around here. They'd bring these like junior achievement guys around and say, oh, there's great jobs here. Not worth it. Not worth it when everybody hates you. So why should they stay? Everybody hates them, and they're not getting any support as it is. So can't even hang a flag.
Thank you. After Haley, we have Kayla Holland.
I just want to preface this by saying that every name that is in this, I have their permission to use. My name is Haley Ashman. My partner and I went to Bluffton Middle and High School. Our oldest daughter currently attends the elementary school, and we have two more who will follow her. We're going to be a part of the school system for the next 17 years, attending sporting events, recitals, and so much more. We're a part of this community, and we deserve to be seen and supported. While trying to figure out what I wanted to say today, I had nearly 2 whole pages typed up questioning why things like religion, sports, and colleges can be supported in the classroom, but the LGBTQ+ community couldn't. But as my speech continued to grow, so did the pit in my stomach, because why was I sitting there comparing the support for my existence to that of the support of a sports team? And I realized it's because I've been conditioned to believe that people can have an opinion on the LGBTQ plus community, but you can't. We're not a sports team, we're not a college, we're not a religion, we just are. We exist and we deserve to know that we are supported. When I attended Bluffton, there were no displays of support for me and others like me. There was nothing there to trigger people into bullying us, and yet we were still bullied relentlessly. We were called vulgar names, assaulted, and made to believe that we didn't belong without the flag being present, because bullies will find any excuse to tear you down. We were left feeling empty, hopeless, and worthless simply because we didn't fall into the default. Many of us turned to things like self-harm, and too many of us questioned whether or not there was a place for us at all. Knowing a teacher supported us would have made a world of difference when we were in school. Knowing there was someone to talk to when there was nowhere else to turn, because as sad as it isn't always safe to talk to people at home, could have changed so much for so many queer students at Bluffton. By telling your teachers they can't display the pride flag, you're telling your LGBTQ plus students and staff, you can be queer, you just can't show it. Too many queer students feel like they can't be themselves until they leave the Bluffton school system. Sam Walburn, Leslie Pieper, Spencer Lind, Ellen Cornwell, Asher Laddick, and Lucas Buskirk are all students from my graduating class alone who denied who they were until they left Bluffton schools. I did the math, and out of the 115 or so students in my graduating class, a full 15% of them belong to the LGBTQ plus community. We aren't the anomaly. My partner and I can name more than 50 students who attended Bluffton between 2010 and 2014, and those are just the people we know. My family isn't controversial, and inclusion isn't controversial.
Thank you.
All right, I'm Kayla Holland. I am Haley's partner. She said most of what I had to say, but I just want to make sure that my stepchildren aren't getting bullied. They may not be my blood, but they are just as important to me as anything else in this world. Everything about this is just so emotional. A teacher hanging a pride flag should not have sparked all of this, especially if she had this for years before now. It's not a flag problem, it is a bullying problem. The flag will not make anyone gay. I knew from the time I was in preschool, is that if I can understand that I like girls from preschool, I think middle schoolers and even elementary schoolers can do better than what they're doing now. And it's up to the parents also to help educate them, but unfortunately they won't. If you don't believe in the LGBTQIA plus community, then I don't even know what else to say. I'm just sick and tired of the bullying. Thanks.
Thank you. We have reached our allotted 30 minutes of public comment. We have 28 speakers remaining on the sign-up sheet. Do I have a motion to extend the public comment portion of tonight's meeting?
I move we extend it.
Motion by Mr. Holland. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Sheets. Are there any further comments or questions from the board? All those in favor? 5-0. Next up is Ken Boots, and after Ken, we have Haley Harnish Mills.
Thank you. I'm older than most of the people who've been up there talking, so my views may be a little bit different. But I don't have anything against the flag. The only comment I would have to make is the way this went about getting done. I think at the very beginning, the principal should have taken it down and then had a school board meeting to okay it. That's just, that's all I've heard is the Bluffton paper and Fort Wayne paper, so, and both my kids are graduated and gone, so I don't get any feedback from what's happening in school and stuff, but I don't think this was properly handled right in my views. Thank you.
Thank you. After Haley, we have Joel Cash.
Members of the board, parents, and alumni, when I was in school, we were introduced to the Safe Place signs. They were big yellow and black diamonds that were hung outside of police and fire stations, on the library, on the schools. They were all places kids in town are familiar with and would feel comfortable going. They're not there anymore, unfortunately. But the purpose of these signs, we were told, was that if we were ever in danger, we should find one of those signs. And there would be a grown-up that could help us. And there would be no judgment. We weren't going to be in trouble, but they would help us out of whatever danger we were in. And that last part's really important because, you know, kids, when they're in trouble or when they're in danger, they're afraid that the grown-up in charge is going to get them in trouble or they're going to punish them or be mad. That's why the pride flag is so important, because that's our safe place sign. It tells, the rainbow tells the kids, like Mrs. Balish said, we're here for you. You can come to me. This is a safe place for you. You're not going to get in trouble for whatever you have to tell me. You can just be here, and I will listen. You are not alone. That adult is not going to be mean to you. They're not going to judge you. They're not going to punish you for telling that person that you're gay or bi or trans or queer or whatever you are. Questioning. I'm not a parent, so I can't see things fully through your eyes. But I do have nieces and nephews, and my every instinct is to keep them safe. And as much as I wish it would work sometimes, I can't keep them locked in a closet. Most of the time, they're going to be much more likely to hurt themselves fumbling around in the dark. That's why we give our littles nightlights, right? I'd much rather give them all the information and give them a soft place to fall when they stumble, or to land when they stumble. I myself stumbled way too long in the dark. I survived 34 years in that closet. But even then, I almost didn't come out. I'm in a straight passing marriage, a good one, but no one would have had to know I'm bi. And in some ways, that would have been a lot simpler. But this is why I'm so vocal about it. Because in this town, we talk about everything, but nothing at the same time. And there's a kid out there just like me who needs to know that they are valid, that they aren't crazy, and that no matter how many times they are told that they are a sin against God, that there's a community here that loves them, that thinks they are beautiful, and that they will keep them safe.
Thank you.
That community is way closer than they think it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. After Joel, we have Sarah Withers.
Hello, my name's Joel Cash. I know a lot of you up here. I know a lot of you out there, and most of you don't know me at all. I grew up singing here. Haven't been here for a long time, but my family's looking to move back. Came back here mainly because I think that it's pretty clear to a lot of the people who went through the school system that this feels like the wrong way to handle this, because a flag isn't the problem. A flag didn't cause bullying. A pride flag, which gives people a place to actually feel safe and feel like they're supported in a community where they definitely don't, walking down the street. And I know that because I'm a bisexual male who also is in a straight passing marriage. And I've lived my life pretty well and pretty quietly. But I lived very quietly because I couldn't talk about myself in this community at all. I spent how many hours, days, weeks with you? You didn't know that. I sat in classrooms with Trent over and over again, over and over for years. He didn't know that. He called me names like that. There are people in this room who were bullies to me, and I can look at each one of you, I can point you right out, and I can say your name. I won't. But the problem here isn't a flag. The problem is bullying in a culture where everybody seems to be just fine with having their hand on somebody else, on pushing somebody else down. And this seems like a community that, the LGBTQ community, seems like a community that is ripe for that. Because, well, we've been able to stomp it out so far, because what did we do? We treated them like garbage, let them feel isolated. They killed themselves, they moved away, they didn't come back. I have a friend who came here tonight, who, there he is, came out as a senior and was met with so much pain, so much torture over it. For what? He gets to live his life now, but he can't live it here. The problem is that you guys aren't teaching inclusion. You're not teaching people how to understand each other. You're not helping these kids understand how to love each other. And helping these kids to understand that when a bully's coming at you, they're not really coming at you, they're coming at themselves. And help them understand that and build that resilience in them, that loving that person is more important than feeling that pain that they're trying to cause. But in the meantime, as grown-ups, maybe we try to figure out that dialogue. And if we're going to try to fight indoctrination, maybe the first thing we do is not let Youth for Christ and other organizations into the school. I don't know. I feel like if we're going in that direction,
After Sarah, we have Abby Graham-Leonard.
Hi, my name's Sarah Withers. I have 2 children of color that are in our school district, and I sponsor exchange students who are always students of color. I think that making a teacher take down a pride flag or a Black Lives Matter flag shows students that the way they are or the color of their skin is not important and is not okay. It shows them that their 2 moms or their 2 dads are a controversial family and are not to be talked about. I'd encourage us to continue to allow students and teachers to express themselves and to try to make our school district a welcoming environment for GLBT, for students of color, for students of all sorts of minorities. If a teacher has a pride flag hanging on her wall that says to my 8th grade daughter, "I'm welcome here. My color of my skin is welcome here." This is a place where I can be safe. So I'd like to encourage us to please continue to try to create that welcoming environment for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. After Abby, we have Sandra Shelley.
Good evening. First, before I kind of make my own comments tonight, I just want to state to the board that I had several past Bluffton students reach out to me that could not be here, or to be fair, were not willing to be here because of their experiences and not wanting to return the community, that submitted statements to me that they would like me to pass on to you. So I will be doing that, most likely following this meeting. As far as my own comments, I didn't want to speak tonight, partly because I hate speaking. Just to add
another voice for you to have to listen to. So I tried to think if I had a unique perspective. And I thought I could speak as somebody who went through the school system and lost friends, family, people I love dearly, who left the community as soon as they could because they couldn't find tolerance here, and the grief that I feel from that loss. I could speak as a daughter of educators. My dad, 45 years in high school, my mom, 40 years in elementary school, who, when I discussed this issue with them, were all in favor of a teacher showing support to her students because they understand that teachers make all the difference to the kids that come into their classroom, and that they can communicate a safety and an acceptance that they may not find in other places. What I really want to focus on, though, is the mental health. I am a mental health counselor. I've worked in the mental health field for 18 years. I have worked as a mental health counselor since I graduated in 2017. I have lots of experience with working with all ages. I currently work at Indiana Wesleyan University, counseling their students there. And I can tell you, I see the impact of what these decisions like this have on students down the road. I could share how they've hidden, shut down, talking to my coworkers and peers in the community. Clients will admit all kinds of things before they will admit their sexuality because they're terrified of what they will hear in response to their admission. That symbol can mean everything to those kids, even if there's never an explicit conversation that just says, here you are loved. I'm not going to go through numbers, but there are studies. You know, I realize that this discussion is more than about the flag, the pride flag, but it's about materials in general and appropriate ages. There are studies that show that middle school students are more likely to suffer from harassment and assault than high school students. It is already in those school systems. They experience it a significantly high number. So it's starting before they ever even get to 9th grade. Those studies also support that they don't feel safe. I can't give you those numbers now. It wouldn't be interesting, but I just will tell you that they suffer academically, they suffer socially, emotionally, psychologically, and all it would take is that one symbol in a classroom to turn things around for them and give them a better chance at the future. Thank you for your time.
After Sandra, we have Carla Castro.
I'm not sure you can hear me. I'm Sandra Shelley, and I have retired to Bluffton. Grew up in Wilshire, Ohio, just across the border. For the last 40 years, I've been a social worker. The last 20 of those years, I have been in higher education and taught at Ball State. One of the courses that I teach, it is one of my best courses, I think, is social policy. So I would like to say I appreciate the angst with which you have approached this policymaking process. But what the argument I would like to make is that there's a flaw in your statement that classroom postings should not contain materials such as political or religious material. A pride flag is neither of those. A pride flag is not policy. I would also say that in these years of my career, many students have come to me needing to come out to their families, and it has been a very painful, hurtful process. None of them did that without pain. None of them jumped up and down and said, hey, I'm gay. They said, how do I tell my folks? How do I tell my church? How do I tell my neighbors? And all my job was to support that because I embrace who they are. I'd also like to praise the courageousness of this teacher. Wow, I'm not sure I'm that courageous.
And I think you all should be proud of her.
Thank you. After Carla, we have Alyssa Thurman.
Hi. I actually didn't plan to speak, and my kids really encouraged me that I had something to say. So I moved here with my family about 5 years ago from a larger school district because we wanted a safe place for our kids. And one of the very first questions we asked, because we are not Caucasian, my kids are Latino, is this a safe place for a diverse family like us? And I got an overwhelming response of yes. However, I fear if I would have said, is this a safe place if we were LGBTQ, the answer would have been no. And we love the school. We have been part of the school. I have a middle schooler, I have a high schooler, and I know that answer would have been different. Lots of those people up here are talking about personal things, but I want to go back to not just the personal respect that I have and the impact on my family, but like Abby Granlenard, I am a licensed mental health counselor, and I work with populations in the juvenile probation system, and I work with populations with DCS, and these kids are not being seen. These kids have fear of having horrible physical abuse for coming out at home, and having a teacher that sees them is huge, because they don't always get the therapy or the social work or the counseling until after something bad happens. And it's not an issue of pride, and it's not an issue of sexuality, because the issue is bullying, and the issue comes from about, the statistics show that 6th grade is the point when kids are bullied the most. And that bullying leads to about 20% of kids attempting suicide. And these kids that are LGBT are 5 times more likely to attempt suicide, but they're also 5 times more likely to be the kids that are hospitalized because their attempts were serious enough to actually end their lives. And that is an issue that I stand here for, because I know my kids, and it doesn't matter if they're straight or gay or trans or bi, because I know if my kid came home and said, I don't feel seen and I don't feel heard, then I want that to be seen and valued. And part of what I want to say publicly is I would love to work with the school district. I would love to sit down with other licensed mental health professionals and educators and set up a plan to promote anti-bullying, to look at what is the issue, not trans, not pride. Let's have a solution. Let's find something to fix this. Thank you.
Thank you. After Alyssa, we have Amber Metz.
This meeting today is taking place because a rightfully concerned and protective mother had an issue with her son getting bullied. But I believe that we're having a meeting to make a new policy about a flag or classroom decorations instead of what we really need to be doing, which is strengthening and amending the bullying policy to better protect our children. Taking down a flag will not solve the problem, in my opinion. How are we to decide when it's appropriate to expose our children to support when children are constantly finding themselves at different stages in their life? We start sex education around 5th grade. It's been a while. I haven't been in school for a while. But somehow don't think kids are mature enough to comprehend the meaning behind a flag, which stands for love and acceptance of everyone. If maturity is an issue here, which someone did say something about kids not being mature enough to have the flag in there, then why is my kindergartner getting exposed to the American flag, which she has no idea what the meaning is? We expose them to things they don't understand so they can begin to understand them. Because bullying happens because children don't understand. And when they don't understand things, that's how they comprehend it. They make fun of it. I could go on and on about statistics and other school policies, but overall, I just believe taking down something that shows support to kids will do more harm. And the pride flag is very much part of today's society, and trying to shelter our kids from it will make kids hate themselves and feel ashamed. Telling a teacher she can't show her support is the same as telling a kid, you can be gay, just don't show it, because then you won't get bullied. My hope is for my daughter to be able to be proud of her two moms and feel welcome and safe in your school. I also want to thank that teacher for finding a subtle way to show her support to her classmates. Thank you.
Thank you. After Amber, we have Abby Bergen-Peak.
Hi, I don't have a speech prepared at all. I'm actually up here for my daughters. My daughters came out to me a year ago, and they were scared. Both of them were. And it broke my heart that my babies were scared to come out to me, to tell me that they find the same sex attractive, but they also find boys attractive as well. My daughters were scared because they were scared of what their friends were going to say, what their family was going to say, and let me go ahead and put it out there. My family is the biggest supporter. We support our children. If somebody finds that their way is a sin, that's not their sin. That's my child's sin, and I will carry that burden. It is not your business, and it is not your right to tell them whether they can feel that way or not. It's not anybody's right. We are told and we are taught, you be who you are. Nobody can tell you who you can be. You can be anything you want to be. So let him be. Don't take something. If she wants these kids to feel safe, let them feel safe. Because my girls know that they're safe, but they were still scared. They need somebody to go to, because I can tell you right now that if something would ever happen to my babies because they were scared to come to me and tell me, and they didn't have somebody to go to or know who to go to, that would be the most devastating thing in my life.
Goddamn right.
Those are my babies. I really need people to understand that it's not okay. They need somewhere to go. They need somewhere safe to be. And by taking this flag away and by deeming that because they're in middle school, they're entirely too young, it's not right. My daughter is in middle school, and she felt wrong for feeling that way. That's not okay. And I love you, and I'll always accept everything about you, even if nobody else does, because that's what a community is. I moved here because I wanted something different for my children, because where I lived, it was not okay. And I grew up here until I was about 8 or 9, and I still came to visit. My babies need to know that they're safe and they have people to talk to. I just ask that you guys really think about this before you make these guidelines. Thank you.
After Abby, we have Jayla Corbett. Apologize for messing the name up.
Hi, thank you for the school board for hosting this very crucial and important meeting. My name is Abby Bergen, for a lot of you that know, but my last name is Peak now. I graduated in the class of 2010, also one of the top 10 graduates. And I consider myself very blessed because I was just explaining to Haley that I did not experience any of this trauma that so many have shared, because I am cisgender and I am heterosexual, and that is what is accepted here and tolerated here. And so I was able to focus on my studies, excel from AP chemistry to calculus. I didn't have to worry about stepping into a classroom where I would be told that my life is less than. And therefore, I could move on to college and graduate and get a wonderful job in a top accounting firm. And that is what I'm the most worried about coming back as an alum, is understanding that these kids don't have a support system that they need to succeed. Just as much as a kid who's hungry can't think about what's going to be on tomorrow's pop quiz because he's too focused on being hungry. Just as a kid who is experiencing their mom in a domestic violence situation wondering if they're going to come tomorrow with a black eye instead of what's going to be on that pop quiz. Just as much as an LGBTQ student is worried if they're going to be shoved into a locker because of who they like or who they are. They can't consider how they're going to do in school if they can't even be okay with themselves. And that's what I most appreciate about Ms. Balish. She's the Ms. Frizzle of Bhmsd. She's quirky, super logical, backed with facts and intelligence that is the symbol of inclusion. She loves and appreciates and accepts every student that steps into her classroom because she just wants you to love science as much as she does. And I think that it's incredibly important to have that safe space so that they don't have to worry about who they are. They can worry about focusing on that pop quiz, about graduating, about going on to a firm in college, and not worry about homelessness. And I'll tell you this. In 5th grade, we learned about sexual health. We go to McMillan Health Center. We talk about the underwear zone and sex in 8th grade. I think we can understand what a pride flag means. Just like the prism of all the colors that the rainbow represents, it is acceptance for all of us, no matter who we are. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. After Jaylee, we have April Corbett.
Hello, my name is Jaylee Corbett. I have gone to Bluffton since I was in 6th grade and I'm now a senior. In the time I've been here, I know multiple people who experience bullying every day for their sexuality. One of my friends actually had to move away because of how bad the bullying was. I know that having even one person in their lives that cares for them, regardless of their sexuality, would have made a huge difference in their lives. If you make teachers take down flags that signify their safe space, a lot of students will lose their only safe space. The real issue with this whole situation is bullying, which I agree the school could be a lot better with handling. If you force a teacher to take down the flag, you are showing the bullies that they win. Even in high school, I hear people bullying others for their sexuality and people saying homophobic slurs, and there is no pride flag present. So, as a student, I beg you to let the flag fly and to take care of the actual issue, bullying. Thank you.
Thank you. After April, we have Denny Johnson, excuse me.
I have an extreme fear of public speaking, but here we go. Oh, geez. Hi, my name is April Corbett. I'm a senior, an 8th grader, and a 6th grader in Bluffton School District. We have been in the district for 6 years. As soon as I saw this email about the meeting, I was compelled to attend. I would first like to say, bullying is never okay. My heart goes out to the mother and the student. The fact that he was bullied so bad that he is pulled from the school district is beyond upsetting. Look at me. I've been bullied my whole life over my weight, and I've been where the student is and felt what he has felt. I hate that bullying is still going on in schools. My issue, however, is that this mother's anger and upset is at the wrong people. The teacher is not the problem. The superintendent is not the problem. The flag is not the problem. The bullies are the problem. My daughter had this teacher, and my son has her now. If the mother would have had a conversation with this teacher, she would have seen that the reason why the flag is hung in the classroom is so students have a safe space. There are so many children, especially in their middle school years, that are questioning their sexuality. There are a lot of parents and other families that these kids have in their lives that refuse to accept or sometimes even acknowledge that their kids might be questioning things. The flag is a symbol that the classroom is a safe space, but that teacher is a safe space. So for that to be attacked because of a couple of students' bad behavior is upsetting. I feel that by having the flag removed, you are letting the bullies win. You are the cause of the cause of other students losing their only safe space they might have. I hope that the flag will stay in the classroom, and I support the teacher 100%. I appreciate her for being the safe space for a lot of children in this middle school. The issue has been turned into a debate over God versus the flag. Please don't let the misguided anger be the reason that many more students have nowhere to turn. This teacher should be praised. She is definitely one of the good ones.
Thank you. After Denny, we have Matthew Gerber.
My name's Denny Johnson. Been around here all my life. I heard about this Sunday at church, and so I'm learning more by listening to everyone right now than I even knew what was going on, this bullying and stuff. So bullying is, I'll just start, devout Christian family all of our life. But the bullying thing has been a problem. Even when I graduated from Norwell in 1969, they just built a new school. We was first class out of there. Didn't have any problem. My brother taught me how to take care of bullying as far as years ago. I did used to get bullied, but not anymore. But I have a grandson that is, as of for about 2 years, did get bullied here. Not homosexual, just bullied because he was a littler kid and just didn't know how to defend himself very well. So I told him, I said, let your mom go talk to him. You talk to teachers. You talk to whoever you have to be, just like I used to tell my boys at Norwell. If there's a problem, you let me know. We will come, okay? And so I am sorry so many have been bullied because of the LBGT, okay? And that, but also, there's other things here I want to say, I guess, real quick. When I heard about this, I heard about the pride flag, okay? I've been studying this for a long time. My mail is like this. I get from ministries, I get from political, I'm involved in different things. But what I wanted to say was, when I heard this, are we going to allow a Christian flag to be flown when some other kid has a problem, like maybe not this school, because you're in a Christian community, thank God, but California, some of these others, it ain't that way. Is that a thing where, and I feel so bad, I see where we're going on this thing, but I don't know. I'm really torn here, and I shouldn't even be talking maybe, but I said, Lord, I prayed all day as I'm driving my tractor mowing today. I really don't want to do this, come up here, Lord, but I wanted to see how many other Christians were going to say, and I appreciate the ones that did, and you did a good job, but what I want to say is, so I thought, I will put my name on it, just in case no one says anything. But I'm against bullying, 100%, any kind of bullying. I can't say, I see why they want a pride flag. I understand that. They got some safe zone to go to. I understand all that completely. That makes sense to me. Just like the safe signs, my son's the Salvation of Ministry in Lafayette. They have the safe sign out there where kids can go if there's a problem. They're not in a good neighborhood. But I don't even know what to say anymore. Because as a Christian, I really, I don't know. I don't know. This got me confused. Sorry. So I'm really torn by all this. Really, it makes me sick to hear.
Thank you.
Kids do get bullied like this. Okay. God bless you all.
Thank you. For Matthew, we have Renee Vitito.
I appreciate the conversation tonight so far. Didn't plan to speak tonight, so my heart goes out to those who've been bullied. I think that's definitely a piece that I wasn't aware of. I was a graduate of Bluffton High School in 2009, elementary through high school. I had a really good experience. I'm heterosexual, so I pray that wasn't the only reason. In the spheres that I was running in, that was definitely something I tried to befriend all people. So I know I wasn't perfect at that. So as I think about the discussion we're having tonight, it's bigger than a flag. And with the amount of people that came out here tonight, it's definitely an area of controversy, whether we're going to call the LGBTQ community a controversy or not. There's definitely a controversy going on. When we can engage in healthy conflict, and I say healthy conflict, Our world is really bad at conflict right now. My rights, I put my rights above the next person's rights, and that's not the right way to handle conflict. So what I read in the policy, it seems like it's setting out a way that in a public setting, educators can effectively work through an issue that is at hand without the emotional side that makes conflict unhealthy at times. If the policy is intended to diminish certain groups specifically, I didn't read that as the intentions of the policy. But if the policy is set so that we as a community can engage in healthy conflict, then I think it's exactly what we need. This community needs more healthy conflict, a place in which we can engage civilly, right? We shouldn't have to have protests to be able to talk to one another. And so those who are here tonight, I'm not sure what will happen afterwards, but maybe there can be some conversation so that we as a community can engage together rather than looking at each other as the enemy. This community will only stand strong whenever we can unite together, and that doesn't mean that we're all going to agree. And as a public setting, in a public school system, this policy does seem to provide an avenue with which we can engage in healthy conflict.
Thank you. After Renee, we have Taylor Vanover.
Good evening. I do a lot of things in the community, and I work here at the school, and I have a letter that I would like to read this evening. To whomever it may concern, recently there has been some drama due to an LGBTQIA+ pride flag that has been hung in a teacher's classroom. One of the main concerns of this flag is the thought that it causes bullying and can be offensive to other people. So people are demanding that the flag be taken down because it will make the kids safer. But other students and I think that taking down the flag will not solve the problem, but only make it worse. Taking down a flag won't fix homophobia. It will only make it worse. By taking down the flag, you are showing people that the opinion of ignorant and homophobic people is more important than the acceptance and support of young LGBT+ students. A piece of fabric does not cause bullying. Hateful people do. So instead of taking down a flag that signifies being yourself and loving people, do better to teach kids that bullying is wrong no matter their sexuality or identity. With all that is going on in the world, we are told we're not allowed to talk about it or be educated about it. This leads to misunderstandings, homophobia, and more bullying. Instead of letting innocent people be bullied by kids and adults, fix the root of the problem and educate people. All this bullying can lead to kids feeling like they are worthless or they don't belong in this community. These feelings can lead to self-harm, mental illness, and suicide. One comment can lead a kid over the edge and cause them to kill themselves. Having a pride flag up can make kids feel like they are accepted at least by one person, which can help them feel more confident and may save their life. A flag may help kids who are closeted or kids who don't have supportive parents feel like they have someone who truly cares. If kids think that they aren't accepted at both school and at home, they may think that they never will be accepted and they have no meaning in life. Having a supportive community can help students and adults feel that they belong, and it may save lives. In conclusion, taking down the pride flag will cause more harm than good and will result in more homophobia and bullying. Acceptance of all types of people is crucial in every community. It's not the only problem circulating in the school or this city, but hopefully we can solve this problem and move on to solving other problems. I hope you take this letter into consideration and allow the pride flag to stay up and help students be accepted and supported. This was written by your middle schoolers. This was signed by your middle schoolers. I have a number of petitions signed by the middle schoolers and the high schoolers. These kids wrote this, your kids. And I had news for you. Some of you in here that are against this, your kids' names are on these papers. Thank you.
Thank you. After Taylor, we have Tom Haney.
Good evening, everyone. By my very nature, I'm a political person. It just so happens that I'm also a committed married gay man. The pride flag has been turned into a political pawn in some circles. But I am here to tell you that it is not affiliated with any political ideology. The discussion of removing a flag that symbolizes those things is something that we as members of this great nation should debate, but always treat others as we wish to be treated. If the flag is removed or listed as banned expression, we are no better than those who tear down statues. But when it comes to the issue of an educator standing in defense of a bullied student who may have needed that glimmer of hope by making them feel they are not alone, who are we to step in the way of an educator for being there for their student? The educator did as they should, and I applaud them for defending that student. The real issue here that we should be combating is bullying. I believe that if we teach individuals how to handle bullies, but sometimes when someone is struggling, to stand up against oppressive behavior, they do need some help. I have firsthand knowledge of what it is like to be gay in school. In my experience, when I was in second grade, another student made a habit of calling me a derogatory slur. I knew I was different, but the teasing and bullying made me think that something may be wrong with me, and I shouldn't talk about it. One teacher eventually became my knight in shining armor. She heard the child and defended me. She scolded the other kid. Her words to me that day were, "No one should ever be judged for who someone is." That experience has stuck with me. The very basic tenets of our founding documents defend the individual. We can't truly say that we stand for liberty and principles we are founded upon if we are not more discerning when it comes to those we treat, who may be different. Of course, I believe this if they are not harming another individual. Truthfully, as many of you know, being gay is a hard road. Sometimes we don't have anywhere else to go or feel safe, and that flag being displayed may make them feel safer. Our educational system should absolutely show students that there are differing opinions in the world. I think we would be doing our students a disservice if we did not show them that there are different people in the world. I do not think we should give them a cookie-cutter perception. Please place your decision upon the intent of the educator, not on baseless fear, prejudiced opinions. Educators have a duty and responsibility in their actions, and we should give them a little leeway and trust. It gives me hope that this young person that was being bullied will now know their community stands behind them and their teacher in this great act. My purpose today is to bring awareness of what this flag's purpose is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
I do have one more thing that I would like to put in here, if that's allowed. The example for them that there is hope and there are people in this community who care and people in acceptance. Whoever this student is, I will say to them, you are loved. And you have our support. And today, in leaving, I will say that we all bleed red, white, and blue blood. Thank you.
Thank you. After Tom, we have Ian Richardson.
My name is Tom Haney. I've been a substitute teacher here for the last 4 years. I'm in my 5th year here. I come from a different perspective than most of you who have spoken tonight. But I love people, and people that work with me know that I love kids, I love people in general, and that's what motivates me to do the things that I do. One of the things that I take very seriously is a responsibility that I have is, like men of God all through Bible times and even in today, a lot of their big responsibility is to warn people about what will come at the end of time. And you can laugh at that, but all of us, every one of us, will stand before God, and we will face God, who will make a judgment about you according to how you lived in this life, according to how you follow your beliefs and how you trust God. Believe it or not. Now, it says here, I had a conversation with Karen Francisco, who is the editor of the Gazette over in Fort Wayne. Very interesting conversation some time back. I sent a letter to the editor over there, and it didn't appear in the paper. A week later, I sent another one, sent it again. It still didn't appear, and so 2 weeks after I sent the first one, I finally called and got a hold of Karen. And Karen said she didn't put it in because she didn't agree with it. I said, you know, I've written letters to the editor all my life. It's the first time in my life that somebody didn't put it in the paper. First time that an editor didn't refuse to do that. I asked her why again. She says, well, it's because I think it's something that I don't think our community will like. And then she told me something very interesting, and I find this really interesting. She said, the last time I put a letter in like yours, I got probably 100 calls from people who were filling me with utter hatred. They were full of hatred. I said, who are these people? She said, people who did not agree with what he said. People from the LGBTQ, whatever it is, society. Okay? Now listen. You don't know what you're talking about. Hey, listen here. She said, I didn't have time.
Okay, Boomer.
Hey.
You guys, this is exactly what she was telling me. It's exactly what she was telling me was, she said that, I said, did you hear what you just said? The people who are saying that, these are the people that supposedly are saying that Christians are haters. I do love kids. I love working with kids, and people know that I do.
Thank you.
And you guys are proving my point. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 8 speakers left. We're planning to continue to get through all speakers. Please be respectful for each individual speaker. They have 3 minutes of time.
Hi, my name's Ian Richardson.
Hold on just a second, Ian. After Ian, we have Christine Newman coming up.
I'm a father of one of your students here in Bluffton Harrison Metropolitan School District, as well as a graduate of the year of 2003. I'm an open pansexual male. I have no problem with telling people that. And in all honesty, I do not understand why a flag that is used to represent goodwill towards people of my community is controversial. If anything's controversial, it's the hatred shown towards my community. Just from the display of a rainbow flag. My daughter knew at an early age what I am. She had no problem with that. She just knew me as her dad. She has family members who are also part of our community. And she's entering middle school this year. I applaud the teacher who showed acceptance towards her students, especially those who are most vulnerable amongst them. My history in this town has showed me that we are not safe here. It's why I left. It's why I urged my daughter and her mother to leave as well. However, I believe that you can set a path of change that shows that we will not allow bullying or bigotry to rule in our schools. It may be prevalent out there on the streets, but it should not be allowed here. Thank you.
Thank you. After Christine, we have Andy Carnall.
Somebody move this up, and us short people are having a real hard time. My name is Christine Newman Aumiller, and I represent GLSEN of Greater Fort Wayne. GLSEN is a national organization whose function is to provide inclusive education for students throughout our nation. As the Bluffton-Harrison School Board considers a policy on controversial topics in the classroom, including at what levels these topics should be discussed, we of Glisson-Fort Wayne believe the following issues should be taken into consideration. First, issues related to personhood, such as ethnicity, gender disability, religion, should not be considered controversial. To do so is to deny the humanity of an individual who is of a different ethnicity, whose gender does not conform to heterosexual norms, who is differently abled, or whose religious beliefs differ from the perceived norm. The pride flag is a symbol of inclusion for all. It clearly indicates that everyone is safe in that space, and that bullying of any sort will not be tolerated in that environment. We are proud to represent that with our rainbow flag. To label an aspect of a person's core identity as controversial serves to dehumanize the very students, faculty, and community that flag represents. Many of your students come from families of different sorts, and this needs to be recognized from the first day of kindergarten to the last day of high school. Families with 2 mothers and 2 fathers have been recognized as truly American by the highest courts in our land. Our schools need to recognize that as well. Removal of the pride flag is a signal to LGBTQ+ students that they are not welcome in the Bluffton-Harrison School Corporation. The statement provided to the board by Fort Wayne Pride previously clearly spells out the negative consequences of exclusion for our LGBTQ+ students. Suicide, depression, homelessness, family dysfunction are only some of the issues our students face. Glisson's most recent school climate survey reports that over 80% of LGBTQ students receive negative comments about their gender identity or expression, and over 60% are verbally harassed. Glisson of Greater Fort Wayne would like to provide you with an opportunity to change this. We have a curriculum nationally approved that we would be pleased to share with you and to help you implement in your schools from kindergarten through high school, providing a safe space. And I would also like to say, as a cisgendered, red-letter Christian, that I support LGBTQ people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. After Andy, we have Scott Wilson.
Good evening, I'm Andy Kernall, and I'm going to take a little bit of a different tack because I think it's probably somewhat of a foregone conclusion that you are going to pass a viewpoint-neutral policy because that is the safe thing for you to do, and I understand that. I was on that board for 2 terms. I understand the need to do that. But not only are you going to have to pass the policy, you're going to have to apply it. Specifically, you're going to have to apply the classroom's posting policy to the pride flag that hangs in Ms. Balish's room. And when I read that policy, I see where it says, any postings related to a subject on which the curriculum permits multiple points of view must not tend to indoctrinate or persuade students to a particular point of view. And as I read that, because I'm a little bit aware of some Supreme Court decisions, I think back to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Does that permit multiple points of view in this day and age? Because the Supreme Court of the United States ruled very clearly last year that to discriminate based on sexual orientation or to discriminate against transgenders is a clear violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And to take that analogy a little bit further, my understanding of the flag, and I didn't know much about it, quite frankly, before this issue arose, but I've heard many representatives of the LGBT community tonight say that the flag simply represents acceptance. Just like African Americans, when they were pursuing their civil rights, wanted acceptance. Acceptance means to be free of discrimination, free from oppression, in your community, free from bullying. If there is a multiple point of view, that can only be non-acceptance. So I realize you're going to pass the policy, and I realize that you're going to apply it. But based on the testimonies that you've heard of students who have been bullied, students who have been oppressed, adults who have had to deal with the marginalization, I ask you to not simply do the safe thing. We don't very often in our lives have the opportunity to do the right thing in the face of opposition, the right thing in the face of aggression, the right thing even at potential personal loss. But the right thing is to allow that flag to remain in that classroom.
Thank you, Andy. After Scott, we have Tiana Baumgartner.
Yeah, I haven't read this policy. The first time I heard about this whole thing, it's just a bunch of BS that someone who wants to support these kids, they get bullied because bullying is, when y'all is supposed to be your policy, a main thing. My daughter went in the 5th grade, from 5th grade to 8th grade, and was bullied. My wife and I were here 3 separate times talking to a guidance counselor, talking to the vice principal. She was pushed into a locker walking down the hall and said, oh, we got to see the films, and said that was not severe enough to do something about the bullying. But then you have a teacher that these kids, by 8th grade, they get bullied so much they're into drugs. They commit suicide. They go with alcohol. They turn to stuff that comforts them. And if you have a teacher that is going to help these kids at this age, it's a confusing age. They're trying to find themselves. Some come from broken homes, that's what it is. And a bully is from a broken home, and they're taking it on someone because they're not getting the attention they need at home. And if you have a teacher that's willing to help these kids and show that it's a safe haven where kids are getting bullied, and some kids are getting their arms broke by these other kids, and okay, that's fine, it's not severe enough. Well, she should be commended, and that flag should stay up. I've seen on Facebook where somebody said the only flag you should fly is the American flag. No. And this country is founded on the Bible. That is the first mistake that the government did, is took the Bible out of school, and it's gone downhill since then. So let her have a flag up, who cares? It's a petty thing compared to everything that's going on in these kids' lives. Thank you very much.
After Tiana, we have Jody Sarge.
Hello. I was a student here from kindergarten all the way up to freshman year. I unfortunately had to leave because of bullying, and it was based on 2 things. 1, my skin color, and 2, my sexual orientation. I came out my freshman year as bisexual, and it gone horribly. I was bullied, I was pushed into lockers, and it was by far the worst year of my life. I tried to take my life multiple times that year, and it was absolutely horrible, and I wish I hadn't gone through it. I wish I had a safe place like Balish's room. There were a few teachers who did make me feel safe. There was Mr. Miller, there was Miss Simons, who unfortunately doesn't teach here anymore, and there was Miss Balish. And I wish I could have gone back to her classroom whenever I was in my freshman year, but I couldn't because her classroom was a safe place, and I didn't have any safe places whenever I was here my freshman year. I had to transfer to Norwell to feel safe, and I didn't like it there because I had no friends. None of my family had gone there. All my family went to Bluffton, and it was a new environment. And I am sad to say that I was more accepted there than I was here. I have more friends there than I have here, and it's all because they were more accepting. I wasn't bullied there. I wasn't treated differently because of any of my views, any of my standpoints, any of the things that made me me. And it felt freeing to be in a place where I felt accepted, where I felt like I could be heard and could be seen. And I wish that this place, that this school district was the same. I wish that everyone here could be accepted for who they are, no matter if they believe in being LGBTQ as a positive thing, if they don't see it as that, because if we have a more accepting place, then the school district is going to thrive more, and kids aren't going to struggle as much as they do. So I say, please keep the flag up, just as a symbol of safety and security. Thank you.
After Jody, I have Samantha Ames.
Hello, my name's Jody Sage. Sorry if I spelled it and it looked like an R. I've got a little bit of a different take on this as well. As I read this, any controversial issue can come up and have to be stripped out of a classroom. I get it that the flag, for some people, they feel that's controversial. But if you enact this policy, anything could become controversial. And what are you left with? You're stripping everything out of the classrooms. So I would encourage you to not pass this policy as it is on that basis alone. As you can see, I'm here supporting the flag being flown. I am here supporting the positive effects that that flag has represented for the students here. I am not here to tell you that, it's a great thing or it's not a great thing. I am here mainly to say this policy as it's written is not going to accomplish what you want it to do. I think you need to reconsider this and sharpen the stick on this a little bit and get more to the heart of the matter. Because if a controversial issue is a topic on which opposing points of view have been promulgated by responsible opinion and or is likely to arouse both support and opposition in the community, then there's nothing that's not controversial. Somebody's going to have a different opinion on anything. So I would really encourage you to not pass this tonight. I would encourage you to sharpen the pencil on it and get more to the heart of the matter. And in the meantime, definitely see what can be done to strengthen the anti-bullying in the classrooms and in the hallways and in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. After Samantha, we have Lydia Harding.
I'm like everybody else. I hate public speaking. I'm Samantha Ames. I'm 29 years old. I have come from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Public speaking makes me cry, so I'm going to try not to. I recently have moved my family down here because of the school systems. I am a lesbian. I have a loving partner. And it terrifies me that we are dealing with this for my daughter's sake. My daughter is in preschool. And if we're dealing with this now, what does that say about her when she gets into middle school? And I hope to God she has a teacher like this one, because we need more teachers like this in our community. People that know that they're safe. Because it is hard enough to be 29 years old and be a lesbian, let alone an 8th grader who is scared and terrified and cannot talk to their parents. And that's terrifying for you guys, for parents. When you leave here today, ask yourself, am I going to be accepting of my own child? Because if you're not, shame on you. Because those kids need to know. Those kids, and I'm a people watcher. I have watched people in this meeting all day, noses snarled because they don't believe what I believe, and that is fine. But I'm here to tell you that when your kids come to talk to me because they are terrified to talk to you, don't rain down my neck.
After Lydia, we have Sage Rodriguez.
Hi, I'm Lydia Harding. I'm the loving partner of Samantha. So high school. High school's rough for anybody. I was bullied. I couldn't tell you how many times I almost killed myself because of it. I had no safe space. It's rough when you don't have anybody to turn to. I had a broken home. Yeah, it's a flag. It stands for everything for these kids, for us. And just taking it down, I mean, you're taking everything away from these children. I wish I had a flag in our school. I would have known that it was okay to be who I was, to go through high school. I mean, I knew I was gay in kindergarten, shit. Sorry. My bad. I work in a factory, my bad. Yeah, I mean, going through kindergarten and then going through high school and being gay and not knowing or not telling anybody and having to act like somebody I'm not, that was horrible. I barely graduated high school. That sucked so bad. I wonder what my life would have been like if I could have just told one person. One person. I wonder what it would have been like. I was disowned after I came out by a couple of my family members, but that's okay. And I will answer to my God when the time comes, sir, and that's okay too, because we have a lot of love to give, and I have a lot of love for you too. Everybody does. Thank you.
After Sage, I have Declan Wittenberger.
I don't have anything to really say that most people haven't said already. The LGBTQ has been around for a while now and has been made fun of continuously, and I have been supportive. I am straight, but I have been supportive of every single person that I have met. My brother and my sister are both pansexual themselves, and I have to show them that I support them, and so is my mom. And it hurts to know that my own science teacher has to take down their flag because somebody is getting bullied. But that bully doesn't care if that flag is up or not. He will continue to bully no matter what. And so I want that flag to stay up for the people that are scared to come out. That way that at least they know that they have a safe place. That way they know that they are welcome somewhere, whether that be at their own house or in that class. I've only been with Miss Balish this is my 3rd week, and I have already learned so much from her just by her being there, and it's ridiculous. And I was one of the people that signed Miss Renee's sheet because I felt like people need to be heard. Their voices need to be out there. They shouldn't be having to hide in the dark. When my brother came out, I can admit that I was scared that people were going to bully him because he's already been through a lot himself being made fun of because of overweight and everything like that, and I hated it. Being the sibling that has to pick up my siblings when they fall makes me feel good, but at the same time makes me feel bad for the people, because I don't understand why people have to bully. There is no purpose of it but to make fun of people. And there is no reason to make fun of people, whether them being a part of LGBTQ. Sorry, I messed up on that. But it doesn't matter what or who they think they are. You never need to bully somebody, no matter how bad that you're hurting yourself. You never need to go down that low. Thank you.
Thank you. After Declan, we have Jonathan Balish.
Okay, so I haven't been in this building for over 2 years, so hi, everybody. I was queer before I even knew it was a thing. In fact, I didn't know the first thing about the LGBT community until I was about 11 years old. And for years, I'd felt othered. I never really knew why. Now I knew, I was ashamed at first. I'd never been educated on anything regarding who I was. It took some time, but I came to terms and started to accept myself. After I came out as transgender, I was the target of a lot of hostility and discrimination. I have been mocked, taunted, shoved, physically assaulted, and sexually harassed. It became hard for me to focus on my schoolwork due to bullying I received almost every day, and my grades began slipping tremendously. Mrs. Balish was an amazing support throughout my 8th grade year, and I so wish there were more teachers like her. But after I got to high school, things started to get worse, and after a while, there was no point in reporting the situations because nothing changed when I previously did. I was terrified. I didn't want to go to school in the mornings. I dreaded waking up. I became depressed and isolated, and I felt like I had nobody in my corner, nobody to turn to for help. I attempted suicide twice. But would things have turned out that way if things were different at school? I know I wasn't the only person to feel like this. The lack of response to discrimination against LGBTQ students usually comes from lack of policy regarding these issues. The pride flag isn't the problem here. Bluffton needs to make sure queer students have a safe environment to express their individuality freely, and creating inclusive policies is the first step to showing us that we matter and our voices are heard. It's not just about targeting discrimination, it's about including LGBTQ topics in education. We deserve to know about our history and receive queer inclusive health and science lessons. There is nothing controversial about us being ourselves. We're all human too, and we should be treated as such. And to everybody who wanted to make the point earlier about this being anything regarding Christianity, it's not about Christians versus gays. This is about all of us against bullying. We need to take a stand and show that we are allowed to be ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Jonathan Balish. That name might sound familiar. I drove 4 hours from my rural Indiana community to your rural Indiana community to support Mrs. Balish, who I get to have, I think, the only person in the room to get to call Aunt Bev, very proudly. Be jealous, I know. I'm a native Hoosier. I'm a science nerd. I'm a gay man. I'm also a father. I personally think middle school sucks for everyone. It's a really hard time. It was really hard for me as a gay man. I think it's hard for everyone, and especially if you're an LGBTQ youth. I knew that I was gay in the 3rd grade. It was a done deal by the time I got to the 8th grade. LGBTQ youth are significantly more likely to commit suicide. Suicide is the 2nd leading cause of death among youth 10 to 24 years old. Last night, my husband of 20 years and I put our 8-year-old son to bed. We sat down, have a boring meal, watch some Netflix, and I received a message from a former student from Bluffton, and I don't have the right to give this person's name and I can't share identifying information, but I just want to share a little bit of what they said. They said that the 3 years they spent in the building here were the most traumatic and stressful of their entire life, that they were made miserable by a handful of boys because of their perceived gayness. This person said, "I truly believed dying would be preferable to going there each day. The teachers were nice enough, but I would never have dreamed of opening up to any of them. If it were today, and I saw some symbol of acceptance as your aunt has displayed, it would have made all the difference in the world." The Trevor Project had a nationwide study that said that having just one ally, an LGBTQ youth having just one ally, made them almost half less likely to attempt to commit suicide. Just one. What if that's my Aunt Bev? I hope that regardless of how my son Truman identifies, that there's a teacher like my Aunt Bev, actually many teachers like her, who has the courage to stand up for letting him be the person that he is. And I hope that you support her right to be a visible ally in the classroom. Taking down the pride flag is not only an attempt to silence her allyship, but it's a loud message from this school board that the bullying we've heard about tonight is okay, and it's not. Please take the opportunity tonight to learn from the parents, students, former students, and educators who've made it clear that the issue in the school system is not the pride flag, it's the bullying, and this proposed policy does nothing to address that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the public comment. I think we got through everybody, and thank you, everyone. Okay, I apologize. I don't have any other ones. Unless I missed a name. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you Carolyn?
I am.
Okay, I apologize.
Sorry about that. I wasn't really too prepared to speak, and as many others, makes me nervous, and I'm sure at this point, all of the stuff you guys have heard has started to jumble together. So basically, I'm concerned that we're here talking about drafting new policies that will probably be held to a stricter standard than the current ones in place, our zero bullying policies. And it's to know that the threat of the gay presence in our community has caused such a controversy just kind of feels an awful lot like bullying to me in general. Because that is the problem, the bullying, right? That's something we should be addressing. It's already a policy, and it's been stated over and over and over again that that's the issue here. At one point in history, it was acceptable to color code our classrooms and our bathrooms and our drinking fountains. And that's obviously before the Civil Rights Movement. And today, we or you have a choice to decide if you want to be standing on the wrong or the right side of history. And as far as this debate between how this plays out towards the Christian community, 538, does that number mean anything? 538 times the Bible mentions love. 6 times it mentions homosexuality. So you decide what's more important, to love our neighbors or to make this a problem.
Thank you, Carolyn. I don't have the other ones. Come on up. I don't have it, but that's okay. This will conclude the end of the public comment.
Thanks for all that you guys do. I'm sure you don't. None of you want to be sitting up there. And so thanks for all that you guys have done. and doing for our school. As far as the policy, I guess I just think and ask ourselves, like, I guess, why do I send my kids to school? It's to get them educated and to socialize them. And so I guess I want them to learn how to handle situations, and I want to have them learn how to handle situations with all people. And so, like you said, some kids can come dressed as Skittles, and mine can come dressed with a Bible verse on the front. But I don't think that sending my kids to school to be influenced by a teacher or to see the pride flag in the classroom, as I'm sure others wouldn't want a Christian flag. I think that the policy is safe, that it would be safe for all. And as far as the bullying is wrong. It's just wrong. I mean, I was bullied in middle school I don't even know why. I do think that middle schoolers are probably the most insecure people in the world. I mean, so they're gonna look for someone to beat on. And so, especially for the middle school, the policies should be so tight, the boundaries should be so tight that these kids are gonna be punished. And so, I'm sorry for all that have been bullied, because it is wrong. We're all human and should be loved. And so, I guess that's just what I wanted to say. So, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to policy creation. Upon extensive consultation with legal counsel, the Board of School Trustees has determined we have a gap in our policies related to the learning environment. Our goal is to develop policy that our community feels comfortable with while maintaining a welcoming environment for all students. And our policy development strives to best balance these competing interests. In an effort to unify our community and clearly state to all students, faculty, staff, and other members of the school community our respect and inclusion of all students, I make the motion for our board to approve a resolution which affirms BHMSD continues to prohibit all forms of illegal discrimination, including discrimination of the basis of sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, race, national origin, religion, or disability. This commitment to an environment free of illegal discrimination has not and will not change. BHMSD values every student and wants them to feel welcome and safe at school. The board strives to create an environment where every student can reach the student's maximum potential. The BHMSD community is made up of individuals with a wide range of beliefs and opinions of a variety of topics. BHMSD respects this diversity of belief and opinion and expects all in the community to do so as well. When beliefs and opinions differ, they will be discussed in respectful ways. BHMSD does not wish to indoctrinate students on topics outside the school criteria, nor does it wish to marginalize those with views on topics with which others in the community disagree. The board will work with the school administration and BHMSD community to see what steps can be taken to ensure that these principles are put into practice.
Does your policy include flag?
Do I have a second motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Murray. Are there any comments or questions from members of the board? Are all those in favor? Oh, excuse me. Yes.
Yeah. With what you just read, is the ideal goal that we have as a board? Let me just say a couple things along the way. I am totally supportive of people of a different belief. In fact, my roommate in Bible college was a gay person, okay? Part of what I see tonight and will not disagree with, that part of this situation where it all began is bullying. And I can go back to my 6th grade year. Whoever brought up 6th grade, boy, they were right on that one. I can remember from the physical bullying and went through, and it wasn't because of my sexual orientation. It was just because I was a small runt with buck teeth and people made fun of me. And I went to church on Sunday, okay? So what we just read to you is our statement of what our ideal goal is to be supportive and inclusive of all students. And that demands cooperation on everybody's part. And so I'm just saying I'm supportive of the ideal goal that we established for us. That's in that statement.
Words on a page aren't actions.
You know, just off the record here, we've sit here and have listened to you all evening, and I respect what everybody said, but you personally have been a bit obnoxious at our meeting tonight. So, I'm sorry. I have nothing against your sexual orientation, but I do have a problem with your attitude. I just had to say that because that's the way I feel. Now, going back to what I was saying, if I may, I'm in support of this basic statement of what our goal is, and we understand that bullying is the underlying situation with all of this, from my viewpoint.
Thank you, Mr. Howland. All those in favor of the resolution? 5-0. Excuse me, any opposed? 5-0. In regards to the new policy on recommendation of legal counsel, the board is beginning the policy creation process. In our district, our past practice is to review a new draft policy on the first reading, which provides the board members the opportunity to review the language, allow discussion, and reach common agreements on interpretation. Following any approval this evening on first reading, the policy will not be in effect until a second and final reading is approved at a future meeting date. Tonight, we have drafted 2 policies for consideration on first reading. Policy INB, Teaching Controversial Issues, and Policy INC, Classroom Postings. The policy INB outlines criteria teachers must use in dealing with controversial issues. The policy INC outlines criteria teachers must use in regards to all postings in the classroom. Both draft policies have been made available to the general public attending this evening's meeting. I will now entertain a motion to approve policy INB, Teaching Controversial Issues, on first reading as presented.
So moved.
First motion by Mr. Murray. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. White. Is there any discussion on policy INB, Teaching Controversial Issues? Yes, Mr. Holland.
Yeah, I've got just a couple comments. We do have to have some basic guidelines in dealing with situations because we are mandated by the state to teach certain curricular items, and I think we have to have some type of watchdog over that at this point. So when it comes to this particular policy, the general handling of it, we may need to tweak it a little bit, but we do need some basic guidance, to maintain an environment where we accomplish what the State Board of Education wants us to do.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Any further comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of this policy? 5-0. Excuse me, any opposed? 5-0. I will now entertain a motion to approve policy INC, classroom postings on first reading as presented.
So moved.
First by Mr. Murray. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Mr. White. Any comments or just questions from members of the board?
I can back this policy on first reading with intent to work with the Bluffton Harrison Teachers Association for further edits. And I do think it's evidence from tonight's discussion that further exploration needs to take place on the topics of bullying, mental health, safety, and security for our students.
Thank you, Mrs. Sheets, and I myself would concur with that.
And may I concur with both of you?
Yes, you may. All those in favor?
Well,
Are you? No?
I'm going to, may I say?
Sure.
Okay. This needs reworked. There were some strong points, and so I'm against passing it on the first reading because it needs work. So,
let's go back. All those in favor? 3. All those opposed?
Thank you.
3-2. Moving on to update Bhmsd Healthy Operations Plan.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. If I could, just before we jump into that next item, I do want to thank everyone for their input tonight. We were able to get through a lot of public comment in a civil way for our community, so I do appreciate that. I also appreciate the insights from the board members tonight. Dealing with a very difficult topic to legislate on in terms of policy. So I do want to thank everyone for their commentary this evening. In regards to the next item on our agenda, update to the Bhmsd Healthy Operations Plan. Since our board last met on August 16th, the district's positive cases have increased slightly. In order to communicate clearly to our students, families, and community, I'm recommending we update our Bhmsd Healthy Operations Plan with the following additional information. And I'm going to read this off of the what our plan would look like if this is approved. So this would be what would be published on our website. In response to active cases spread within our schools, Bhmsd will continue the following framework for increased mitigation measures regarding COVID-19 positives. At 1% positive cases in a building, schools will be in session following our healthy operations plan. If we reach a 3% positive cases per building, school will be in session with masks required for all staff and students, grades 3 and higher, regardless of their vaccination status. Masks may be removed when seated in the classroom facing forward. Mitigation strategies would be in place for the next 2-week period and then reevaluated after that time. If we would reach a 5% positive cases per building, students will then attend school virtually for a 2-week period, and then it will be reevaluated after that point in time. Regarding athletics, visitor access, and school events, for athletic teams, clubs, and groups and other activities, if any one team, club, etc., would have active viral spread within the participants or athletes of that team, the team activities may be suspended for up to a 2-week period. Regarding visitors in school, if Wells County's COVID-19 spread level is blue, according to the state health department, all school day visitors will be permitted within our school's regular check-in procedures. If Wells County's COVID-19 spread level is yellow or orange, all school day visitors must be educationally necessary and or pre-approved by the building administrator. If Wells County's COVID-19 spread level is red, school day visitors would not be allowed. Regarding school events, if Wells County's COVID-19 spread is yellow or orange, spectators at sporting events will be recommended to wear a face mask or covering, a face covering or mask, and follow social distancing measures. If Wells County's COVID-19 spread level is red, Spectators at a sporting event or ECA event will be restricted to household members only in attendance and required to wear a face covering or mask. I recommend approval of the update to the BHMSD Healthy Operations Plan as presented.
We have a recommendation to update our BHMSD Healthy Operations Plan. Do I have a motion?
I motion we update the plan.
First by Mr. Holland. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second by Mrs. Sheets. Are there any comments or questions from the members of the board? All those in favor? 5-0. Opposed? 0. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
First by Mr. Holland, second. Second by Mr. White. Thank you.